Welcome to a series of podcasts discussing all the legendary albums I've never heard. Here I'll discuss as many legendary albums as I can think of, give my opinions on them. Without further ado, enjoy the show. Let's talk about Demon Days by Gorillaz. The year is 2001. The internet is becoming a huge part of normal American life, piracy is all the rage, and a certain musical trend, Britpop, is starting to peter out, with Blur and Oasis starting to lose steam. Meanwhile, a new band starts to take the stage of alternative and hip-hop music. This band is Gorillaz, who have a very particular quirk about them. You see, they aren't a real band at all. Gorillaz was created by Damon Albarn, the frontman of the aforementioned band Blur. It was a direct response to what he considered television focusing too much on the image of musicians instead of musicians' actual music. So, Albarn reasoned he could make a band without any actual musicians at all. Thus, Gorillaz was born. Gorillaz is what's known as a virtual band, which is a band where all the musicians are cartoon characters, something like Alvin and the Chipmunks or the Archies. Gorillaz have been pretty recently successful compared to the other two. The virtual band still continues to this day. The characters have even been aged up in a linear way. However, another notable thing about Gorillaz is that their music is very heavily story-driven. The story is told through selected music videos. With their self-titled debut, the story wasn't as important, just that you knew who the characters were, what they were doing, and various other minor things. However, their second album, Demon Days, is where the story really started picking up, and what followed was a beautiful mixing of real life and virtual, with the album challenging you to distinguish between the two, a reflection of our own Demon Days. Demon Days came from a collection of ideas Damon Albarn had. He expressed interest in making a second Gorillaz album, something Jamie Hewlett, the main animator of the project, was also interested in. Albarn wanted to write an album that truly captured the idea of modern Demon Days. He wanted to make the album very dark and atmospheric, with each song serving as a different demon we all face in life. The songs were all written by Albarn and Hewlett, and were eventually sung through the perspective of the Gorillaz characters. Most of the virtual band members sing on this album. Judy is the lead singer, but Murdoch, the bassist, and Noodle, the guitarist, also sing a couple. However, the spotlight usually isn't on them, though in universe it is stated that Noodle wrote all the songs on Demon Days. What resulted was a quite interesting examination of earthly life as examined by a band who canonically live in a world very similar to ours, if a little worse. So, without further ado, let's talk about Demon Days. 1. Intro. We begin this album with a short little intro song, fittingly called Intro. There's no lyrics to this song, and instead it's just a brooding atmospheric piece. It samples some low clarinets, and is overall more of an ambient piece. It's hard to really conduct an analysis of this piece because once you've heard one part of it, the rest is very similar. It's a good atmospheric piece for what it's worth, and one I enjoy that's fine as it is. 2. The Last Living Souls. This one has a very crunchy tone, if such a thing exists. The drums and guitar combined gives this song a very 90s alternative feel, giving a very clear blending of the electronic with the acoustic.
Are we the last living souls? Are we the last living souls? Are we the last living souls? Are we the last living souls?
That's a very clear drum machine there, but that, combined with the crunchy guitar, gives it that slightly alien feel. The feel goes on throughout the song, establishing that electronic, acoustic, 90s alternative style. This song's dreary nature and lyrics imply that this is about depression, the complete discontentment audible in the vocals. Though that's more or less 2D's thing, it works well here. On top of this, alien progression implies such a thing, if not through the ambiguous lyrics, the very sluggish pace. The song pulls off this feeling very well, and it really leaves you feeling defeated at the end of it. As far as songs about Demon Days go, this one audibly represents that incredibly well. 3. Kids with Guns. This song continues the 90s alternative trend established through the last song, though what that song did with a very alien sound, this one does with a groove. The groove is what makes this song sort of pace lock, not allowing it to continue faster, but driving it so that it doesn't slow down. And one of the best things about a good groove is that it makes everyone else go buck wild if done right. This holds absolutely true in Kids with Guns, as by the time the song reaches the end, it's going absolutely insane. The drums have locked into a crash cymbal pattern, as the guitar performs a solo buried under the increasingly loud piano and drums, giving the song a fantastically frantic feel. This frantic feel is probably exactly what Albarn was going for, as the song is about exactly what it seems like it is. Inspired by seeing a kid bring a knife to school despite him being a perfectly fine kid, Kids with Guns is about these sort of kids, and how bringing a gun to school makes everyone else see the entire generation as lesser. Fantastic song, while not anything new, knows its place and knows that it can go incredibly hard to intensify the message behind this. 4. Oh Green World. This song makes heavy use of electronic effects. It once again blends the artificial with the organic, but the artificial is so incredibly present in this song that it overrides the organic. The song is driven by a drum machine part that doesn't even hide its electronic bits. Behind the drums is a synthesizer pattern backed by a looping guitar. Overall, it's very electronic and very artificial. Once again, this greatly enhances the idea behind the song. Despite the title, this song is about the price of fame, how something that seems so nice can be such a burden. What little lyrics are in this song drives this idea. There's not much to talk about in this song, and it's not one of my favorites, due to the intensely electronic percussion and backing track, as well as the fairly ambiguous lyrics. It's still a very good song, however. 5. Dirty Harry. This song is probably the most straightforward trip-hop song we've heard thus far on this album. Trip-hop is in fact a genre that was popularized by Gorillaz themselves. It's generally a genre that prioritizes groove on top of choppy synths and swelling instruments that might remind one of a psychedelic rock or pop song. Dirty Harry hits you with this right out of the gate, immediately starting with a synth pattern over a very calculated and repetitive drum machine one. By the time the first chorus is over, the break already has a choppy synth waiting to add more color to the song. However, after a couple choruses, the beat changes to a more broken beat instead of the free-flowing drums heard in that drum part, and we get our first guest rapper of the Demon Days album. The rapper, Booty Brown, goes on to sing the meat of the song. The lyrics heard in Brown's part exemplify societal pressure. Brown sings about how orders are given to him by high-ranking folks in society, and he has no choice but to follow them. This is brought on not only by rules and regulations, but peer pressure as well. There's no other choruses, but Brown's part definitely elevates the song. While not the grooviest song on the album, I could very well take a trip-hop song like this and listen to a chorus that groovy for hours. In fact, there's a song like that later on this very album. Dirty Harry is a song that is very good, and I very much enjoyed listening to it. 6. Feel Good Inc. This song is probably Gorillaz' biggest song. I say probably, but it absolutely is. Feel Good Inc. is in fact Gorillaz' only hit in the US. And if there's one hit, this is probably it. The song, driven by its infectious bassline powering drum part, also exemplifies a groovy sort of hip-hop. However, this is one of the poppiest songs on the album. While not completely poppy, it still has a bit of a corporate sheen to it. That corporate sheen is also probably intentional, because this song is about corporatism. This song plays as if it were engulfed by the corporate machine, and it even includes its own catchy slogan played as a hook. Shabba tappa, feel good. However, when 2D starts singing, you start to realize just how broken the facade is. His mumbly, borderline incoherent lyrics show to us, the listener, that corporatism is bad, and it crushes souls more than it helps them. There's also a guest rapper on this recording, De La Soul, who plays the part of the rebel. While 2D is the unsuspecting citizen that just accepts it, De La Soul is the person who's trying to break the system. This is also exemplary in the music video, which shows 2D trapped inside what is presumably the Feel-Good Inc., while Noodle is alone, on an island, not only apart from those who didn't accept the Feel-Good Inc., but also feeling ostracized because she herself didn't. It's very well done, and it's easily one of the best songs on the album. 7. El Mañana. This song also carries a very trippy alternative feeling to it. The synths are almost ethereal. The drums add in a very electronic feel to the song. It's not as corporate as Feel Good Inc., having a calmer feel to it. The song is low-key and more or less just brings you into a vibe. The lyrics here are very clearly about loss. It's about losing a lover, but still wishing for that lover to come back. It has some fantastic lyricism and a very nice video, or at least cinematic, backing it up, showing the island that Noodle was on in the Feel Good Inc. video being shot down. Now that was an intentional bit done by Gorillaz at the end of the Feel Good Inc. video. Noodle was supposed to get her island shot down. She had a parachute, so they'd be able to find her later. However, when the island couldn't be found after recording, and Noodle couldn't be found either, she was presumed dead. However, the El Mañana animatic shows that Noodle survived, and she had no idea where she was. This ties in with the theme of loss. While Noodle wasn't a lover, she was still someone that the band cared very much about. Meanwhile, it ties into Noodle too, as she is canonically 12 years old when this happened, and that implies a loss of innocence, of rose-colored glasses, and just a loss of childhood. This is probably another one of my favorite songs on the album because of how poignant the lyrics are and how much it ties into Gorillaz' story. 8. Every Planet We Reach. This song is incredibly funky. It draws heavy influence from trip-hop, as with the rest of the album, but the song also has a staggered drive, as if it were played straight and swung in post. The guitar riff is immaculate, and the drums greatly add to that feeling. The lyrics are once again about the loss of a lover, but this time the girl is headed off to see another man. It's a very cliché lyric, one that's in an incredible amount of pop songs, one you've seen probably about a dozen times. The lyricism also isn't as ambitious as El Mañana is, which is a much more interesting look into the psyche of someone who has experienced the loss of a lover. However, the song goes so hard that I can't help but like it. The guitar kills and the synth and bass do as well. It really makes you feel the struggle and perhaps acceptance of someone in this predicament. 9. November Has Come. This song feels very much like a classic 80s rap song. A smooth flow over a simple beat that doesn't really change much at all. The beat's very laid back and the flow complements it very well. It's all a very zen-like experience.
Some no split, clown bum, your gold hit sound dumb, hold it now, crown 'em. Where you found them at, got 'em round town, coulda drowned in it, woulda floated, bloated, voted, sugar-coated, loaded, hip shooter, draw for the poor, free, coffee at the banks, hit through the straw, none more for me, thanks. That blanks the roar, that dank sure stank lit, sank past the pit for more hardcore prank spit.
I don't exactly know what the lyrics are about though, I'll admit it. This song, which features MF Doom, is rapped all the way through. The lyrics seem to be about a collection of unsavory characters you can find on the street, and how those unsavory characters are mainly doing what they can, because life is pretty garbage. That would fit with the album theme very well, because A Terrible Life is a reflection of Demon Days. However, there's a lot of metaphor in there, and that makes it a little harder to untangle for me. Regardless of what the lyrics mean, this song is a vibe and a song I enjoy a lot. Unfortunately, MF Doom would later die a few years after this album, on October 31st, meaning he never got to see November. 10. All Alone. This song is another trip-hop-like song, featuring a very staggered drum and synth line. The instruments don't really change much, as the only punctuating note is a couple of lines that say all alone every other bar. The disorienting instrumental doesn't really fit with that idea, but it doesn't have to. This song also features a guest rapper, that being Roots Manuva. He has his own lines that add greatly to the idea expressed by this song. The lyric appears to be in accordance to the title. It seems to be all about how loneliness can lead to already lonely people turning to less savory behaviors, such as gang membership, general crime, or even murder, based on their desire to not be lonely anymore. The flow is very good, fitting very nicely with the song, and I enjoyed listening to it. Like November Has Come, the lyric can be a bit obtuse at times, but it's still a very nice song with a vibe to it that's hard to replicate. 11. White Light. This song is very unique. It's more of a punk rock song than anything else on the album. It has a driving bass line and drum part, and the guitar is very overdriven and crunchy. It's not really a disorienting song, but it is a very driving one. Aside from a random country style part halfway through, this song remains the same throughout. Now, you may have heard the lyrics there. Another reason why this song is singularly unique is that Murdoch sings this one. He sings the same lines over and over, and apparently recorded this drunk under a bridge with a recorder. As for why it made it onto the album, one can only presume that the rest of the band found it really funny. Or, they actually thought the song ruled, and rightfully so. The song drives, and the lyrics only add to that drive, no matter how discombobulated or repetitive they may be. White Light is a pretty good song. 12. Dare. Dare is a fantastic song. I don't think that's a particularly groundbreaking statement. After all, Dare is one of the more popular Gorillaz songs, and was a single to this album. It's not Clint Eastwood or Feel Good Inc. popular, but 250 million views is still nothing to sneeze at. Dare is another trip-hop style one with an emphasis on groove. While most of the songs on this album have an emphasis on groove, Dare's does them all one better by leaning into the groove and turning it up to 11. There's two parts of the song, a verse and a chorus. There's Sean Ryder's part, the chorus, which mainly consists of two lines. It's coming up and it's dare. And then there's Noodle's part, the verse, which is a more balanced collection of lines with more of a narrative to them.
Coming up, coming up, coming up, it's there.
It's not exactly a masterclass in lyricism. It reminds you that, yes, this album was written by a 12-year-old. However, it doesn't matter, because it makes me want to dance. This song seems to break the mold of the album, playing on less of a personification of Demon Days and playing on a personification of the entire idea of trip-hop instead. And it kills. I love Dare because of how carefree it is, how catchy it is, and overall, how much I feel like it embodies the character of 12-year-old Noodle before she probably got a tidal wave of trauma from the El Mañana incident. She just wants to have fun, and that's fine. And it makes Dare my favorite song on Demon Days, not because of the meaning, but because of how damn infectious it is. 13. Fire Coming Out of a Monkey's Head. This song is a nice narrative story narrated to a nice bounce. The vocals are spoken words, spoken over the bouncy music in the background.
Once upon a time, at the foot of a great mountain, there was a town where the people known as happy folk lived. Their very existence a mystery to the rest of the world, obscured as it was by great clouds. Here they played out their peaceful lives, innocent of the litany of excess and violence that was growing in the world below.
Fire coming out of a monkey's head wants to tell you a story about the happy folk who live at the foot of a great mountain. The happy folk were, well, happy until a group called the strange folk arrived. The strange folk disrupted the happy folks' peaceful lives, only to further their want for riches inside the mountain. When they were done, all that was left of the once great mountain was now a gaping hole, one that used to be filled with the same riches that the strange folk wanted. It's a simple story, and yet embodies so many things. It embodies an us versus them mentality, of people thinking anyone new is other. The strange folk drive the happy folk to fear, just because they were there. In addition, the thing that Al Barn actually said the song was about was the USA's relentless pursuit of oil. All the strange folk want are the gems, with no regards to how dangerous such a thing might be. This is oil, something the US guns for, often literally, without regards to anything. Soon it leaves behind gaping holes where riches once were, but since have been depleted. It's a realistic song, and embodies a post-9/11 world very well. While I don't like the spoken word angle very much, I can say that I very much appreciate the story this is trying to tell. 14. Don't Get Lost in Heaven. This song is very ethereal in its style. There's nothing but a piano in the back and some backing vocals that add to the color of the song. It's awfully simple, and it drives you to think about the lyrics a little more.
Got off the plane to the countryside, outdoor to the mountain and a hole in the ground. There was crack on the corner and someone dead, and fire coming out of a monkey's head.
The lyrics are pretty clearly about drugs. Don't Get Lost in Heaven refers to the high that one might get from doing them, and how addictive pretty much all of them are. It's implied that whoever was with 2D last put him into drugs and he hasn't recovered yet. Considering that in the Gorillaz canon, 2D indeed has an addiction to painkillers, it's probably not that far of a stretch. It's very simple, and thus isn't one of my favorite songs, but it's mostly fine. 14. Demon Days. And roll credits! Demon Days is a song that's driven by a glitchy string section and 2D's incredibly high vocal stylings. This song is supposed to be the glimpse of the rising sun after a night of demon days, according to the top comment on the video. Demon Days embodies that feeling, as well as several others. It feels like a rising sun, a glimpse of hope, and a credits song. It feels like it's the perfect way to end out this album, by reassuring you that there's always tomorrow. And that's what the lyrics portray too, a sense of hope, of freedom, and the idea that, well, we're done. There's always tomorrow. I'm writing and recording this in 2022, and after the terrible years that have recently happened, 2020 and 2021, this song reassures me that life is what I make out of it. Demon Days is a very hopeful song. I love it for what it is, and it's a perfect way to close out the album. Outro. Demon Days is a good album. It shows a virtual band that isn't afraid to try new things. Gorillaz holds the world record for most successful virtual band, and while Alvin and the Chipmunks can put out a novelty hit every so often, Gorillaz truly care about themselves. They're a virtual band that are more than just a novelty, and I feel like Demon Days portrays that. So, does Demon Days deserve to be a legendary album? Yes. Yes, it does. Demon Days is an album that exemplifies genre blending, the success of a virtual band apart from their creator, and a world struck by Demon Days. It's a fantastic album, and I highly recommend listening to it if you haven't. Knowledge of the band's lore isn't required, as Demon Days stands on its own. While Albarn and Hewlett may have been the masterminds behind Gorillaz, the band, the virtual band, 2D, Russell, Murdoch, and Noodle, is a fantastic way of getting the message across. There will probably never be another album like Demon Days.